The Clemson Tigers' biggest test of the 2023 college football season begins on September 23rd when those Florida State Seminoles come to town. Where will they rank on the threat scale of 1 to 10? I'm going to tell you next on the Locked On Clemson podcast.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Clemson family? Welcome back to the Locked On Clemson podcast, your daily podcast covering your Clemson Tigers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on Twitter at DP_NFL. You already know that I'm part of the co-host team of the Locked On NFL Draft podcast and the founder of the Scouting Room. Guys, thank y'all for making Locked On Clemson your first listen today and every day, Monday through Friday. Thank you for being the family, but also thank you for being the everydayers, our everydayers, and nothing but love and appreciation, guys. But as I told you yesterday, as the show went yesterday, right, I'm going 3 by 3 by 3. I'm going through the schedule in sets of threes, and I'm talking about each team that your Clemson Tigers have to face, and I put them on the threat scale. I created a threat scale 1 to 10, 1 being the least amount of threat that the team opposes to Clemson, and 10 being the highest level of threat. And we got a fun show. We're getting all into the ACC. We have Florida State, the big matchup, right? We have Syracuse, and we're going to close it out with Wake Forest, guys. So we have a fun show. Let's get it started. Let's get it going, all right? The Florida State Seminoles. This is a game that everybody has marked. Yes, Duke, and I've talked Duke up, and I told you guys Duke was a good 7.5. I think I said 7.5 on the scale, just because they're talented, and I think that the location, the time of that game, all that good stuff, makes it a difficult matchup, or could make it a difficult matchup. But I still expect Clemson to be favored and to win that game. This is the one. This is the granddaddy of them all right now, because you talk about setting the tone. You talk about setting the table. Clemson versus Florida State. Florida State coming in to Clemson. And Florida State, if I remember correctly, also has a big matchup to start their season, the night before we play. They have to play, I think it's a neutral site, LSU. So you talk about, that's a tough matchup, right? And then they got Boston College. Then they come into town for the matchup with us. And I think for my scale, just straight up, guys, just being honest, they're a 10 to me. They're the only 10 on this schedule. Florida State is supremely talented. This is a team that you cannot take lightly in no way, shape, or form. And from having a Heisman, candidate at quarterback in this, that's in your conference, in your league and everything, right? But just everything that they bring to the table, guys. Like, I'm looking at this roster, and they've done so well through the transfer portal. Okay, you having Jordan Travis, like just offensively, they're the real deal, guys. Offensively, they are the real deal. So you listen to and you listen to me, and I tell you guys, listen, Duke is one thing, Florida State's another. You have Jordan Travis at quarterback, Trey Benson at running back. They have 3 wide receivers that we have to be worried about. In the slot, Winston Wright Jr., a shifty, explosive slot receiver. Johnny Wilson, the big 6'7", 235-pound wide receiver, right? Nate Wiggins, had his hands full with him, but Nate performed well, against the highly touted, highly talented Johnny Wilson. But then going over to the transfer portal and getting Keon Coleman from Michigan State, 6'4", 210, 215, NFL pro-ready body, and this young man can make plays in the slot, out wide, back shoulder fade. He can jump over guys. Same thing with Johnny Wilson. So you talk about, the one thing that NFL coaches always talk about is big body receivers. You typically say they're not covered. They're always open. You just got to trust them and put the ball in the area code, right? Anytime I scout guys, I put area code wide receiver, because they play outside of their area code, right? Like, this is a guy that, outside of their frame, and that means, like, hey, just put it in my area code, quarterback. All right. Jordan Travis just put it where I can get it, and where he can't reach it. But I'm 6'7". I'm Johnny Wilson. I have 36-inch arms and a 7'2" wingspan. They can't run, they can't jump with me. Like I can go get it. So, they have two guys like that. And then the guy that probably isn't going to get a lot of the pub, but he's dangerous, and that's Jaheim Bell, the tight end. Listen, this young man, they use him. My comp for him was kind of like Aaron Hernandez coming out of Florida for those who remember when he was with the New England Patriots and things like that. Rest in peace to him. But that was one of the things. Like Aaron Hernandez did everything at Florida. Like he lined up in the slot, lined up out wide, lined up at tight end, H back, right? He would take handoffs. Okay, he would do everything. He did the same thing when he went to the New England Patriots, and Jaheim Bell has done that for the University of South Carolina. Under it was Shane Beamer with Spencer Rattler and those guys. He would do similar things like that. He would get in shotgun, some pistol behind with the quarterback, and take inside runs, inside zone. Halfback dive. He would run the ball like as an actual running back. And then they'll, of course, put him in the slot, put him at H-back, get him the ball, and he's got speed. So this is a team that, like you talk about that versatility, that's a headache for a defense, man. That is an absolute headache for a defense. And that's one of those things where you have to figure out how to defend. Like, you have to think about it from this aspect. And then they have this freaking, like, freshman, like Hakeem Williams, who I think he's a 5-star, one of the best players in the country, 6'2", over 200 pounds at wide receiver. So they have some ballers on offense. Okay, so when I say a 10, guys, I mean that with my whole heart. They are a 10. You hear me? And I like, again, this is a situation where, like I said, from an NFL standpoint, right? Coaching, you say, okay, what do they do best? And how do we force them to do what they don't like to do, right? Like, what's their weak point? Okay, like, do they want to rely on the run game? Do they want to run Trey Benson 40 times, or do they want to pass it 35 to 40 times? What do they want to do? And then you take that away. What's the one thing that's their strong suit? You take that away, and you make them, and you basically force them, right, in a sense, to play what we call handicapped. So you got to figure out how to do that. And I think the defensive line is going to be big. They have Robert Scott Jr. at left tackle, battling, I think, with Bless Harris. But they also have Casey Roddick, who's a senior. Both of Bless is a senior, redshirt senior. Casey Roddick's a redshirt senior. Maurice Smith's a redshirt junior. So they have talented veterans on the offensive line. But here's what the thing is. So for me, with the offensive line, this game, like I always say, games are won and lost in the trenches. Rook, Tyler Davis, Justin Masco, Xavier Thomas, Peyton Page, all those guys, TJ Parker, the young kid, all those guys on that defensive line that are going to rotate in are going to be pivotal, because containing Jordan Travis. Listen, we watched Johnny Manziel play. For those who saw this young man play, he just played backyard football. Jordan Travis does the same thing. I would say he's probably a better athlete than Johnny Manziel too. Quicker, quick twitch, explosive, dynamic. Like he's very Houdini-esque, right? Bryce Young in that realm too, that kind of paint that picture. Whereas, like, you think you have him, if you got a free runner, then boom, he pirouettes, he spins off of it, right? And now he's on the boundary. He's looking to make a throw downfield, and then he fakes out your DB or your defenders. Now he's running for 15 yards, first down, right? Like, he had a crazy play like that against us, I think, last year. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is that we have to contain him, play him. Well, this is what you do. Utah in the Pac-12 championship game, albeit it was kind of a hobbled Caleb Williams, what they did was what we call cage rushing. In the South, we call it mush rush, where you don't get out of your lanes, you just collapse the pocket, but don't overrun, right? So you just kind of slowly collapse the pocket on the quarterback. Don't give him any outlets. Don't give him anywhere to run. Don't give him any back doors or side exits or let me jump out the side window. No, don't give him any of that. Make him play from the pocket. Because the one thing that I do struggle with when evaluating Jordan Travis is I wonder how consistent he can be if you force him to play from the pocket. The same way I felt about Johnny Manziel, same way I kind of felt about Bryce Young, where if you start to contain them and you play good coverage, and they're not able to run around and be Houdini and do all these magic tricks and stuff, how can they play within structure at a high consistent level? And Johnny Manziel couldn't, and Bryce Young I think has the potential, but he hasn't shown it in preseason, and we just got to see that from Jordan Travis. And I think that's the plan from a defensive standpoint, is to go ahead and handle it that way, guys. But listen, defensively, they're talented as well. They're very talented on the defensive side of the ball, and we all know, you got nose tackle Fabian Lovett, and Brandon Fisk, but also the big guy, Jared Verse, a potential top 10 pick in the 2024 NFL draft. They have good corners, Akeem Dent as kind of that strong safety. Listen, at the end of the day, guys, they are a 10 on the scale. They are a 10, and I'm worried about that game. I'm worried about that game completely, guys. But like I said, Florida State, that is kicking off. That's the game. September 23rd. You get to those first 3 games undefeated. That's the game that you got to take care of. That's the team that you got to knock off. If you're a Clemson Tiger fan, you got to be ready for those Florida State Seminoles. But guys, you want to talk about being ready? Anytime you have a big emotional game, you got to prevent for a letdown. And Syracuse believes that they can knock us off. Their quarterback was talking about that this offseason. So we're going to talk about Syracuse and where they rate on the threat scale coming up next on the Locked On Clemson podcast. Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Guys, sometimes in life we're faced with tough decisions, and the path forward isn't always clear. Whether you're dealing with decisions around your career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate your life, so you can move forward with confidence and excitement, trusting yourself to make those decisions that align with your values. It's like anything else. The more practice you give it, the easier it gets. And for those that struggle with trauma and everything else, it's helpful to learn positive coping skills, right? You need that. It's very helpful to learn those positive coping skills and how to set boundaries, as it empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who experience the biggest and major trauma. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. So I'm telling you now, let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnCollege to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp/LockedOnCollege. HELP/LockedOnCollege. The Syracuse Orange, guys, they are next up on the schedule after that big emotional game versus Florida State, with all the pressure, all the marbles early in the season, week 4. How will the Clemson Tigers handle Syracuse? Will they walk into this game just drained emotionally, mentally, physically, everything else after a heavyweight slugfest with Florida State? If so, Syracuse could pose a decent threat. And just in general, for me, I put them on a scale of what? From 1 to 10, they're at maybe 5. They're at 5. And I think they have a good coach. I think they're well coached with Dino Babers. They have a dual threat type of quarterback with Garrett Schrader. He's not the greatest passer, but he's well experienced, senior and everything. But they have some weapons, big kind of wide receiver slot hybrid. Oronde Gadsden the second, he plays kind of the tight end, slot wide receiver, but the guy can move, great catch radius. You think about finding the soft spots in zones and, beating, especially in the slot. If you put a smaller nickel on him, that's a mismatch for the big fella. So you have to, he's the number one receiving option on this team. There's no more Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker's in Tampa Bay with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, trying to earn a roster spot there. But, they have LaQuint Allen, who's a sophomore. So we got to see how this run game will look, because we knew there was Sean Tucker. He was explosive, dynamic, runaway type of running back. And you just got to see what happens with him, with LaQuint Allen, and how different it'll look. But it's going to start and stop with, the connection of Garrett Schrader and Oronde Gadsden. That's going to be the connection, right? And I expect, this is a situation where I expect probably Nate Wiggins to be the guy to if he's cool moving into the slot, he's handled Johnny Wilson. So handing another 6 foot, I think Oronde is like 6'5". Yeah, 6'5", 2, I think it's like 230, 225, somewhere in there. Yeah, 225. 6'5", 225, big slot. I think you take away him, and you force Garrett Schrader to then get the ball to Isaiah Jones, who's a redshirt senior, into Damian Alford and Umari Hatcher, DeMarcus Adams, and Donovan Brown. Force him to throw the ball to guys that he may not have the best chemistry with. His chemistry is going to probably be outstanding with Oronde Gadsden, but you want to take him away and force Garrett Schrader to make those. One thing about him. I think we've beaten him 5 times in a row, right? And I think the biggest thing with Garrett Schrader is he's not the most accurate. And just from a progression standpoint, he doesn't tick like a sprinkler. He doesn't tick and get through his reads and get the ball out. I feel like he stares. I think he's kind of been a one read type of quarterback. And like I said, but he can run, he can improvise. He's a big body, so we got to keep him caged in as well. But I think what you do, he's a guy that I wouldn't even mind them lighting him up in terms of sending the blitz, send pressure, right? Because I don't trust his processing as it is. So it's like, okay, if I speed up your process, how will that look then? How will things work at that point? And I think that's where my mindset is a little bit, is just, speeding him up and forcing him to make quicker decisions. And that typically, when you do that with guys who don't process information well and read coverage as well, that typically forces them to make mistakes such as holding onto the ball, throwing interceptions, potential strip sacks because they're holding onto the ball and they're allowing pressure to get back there. So I expect, I wouldn't be surprised if Coach Goodwin does send some blitz packages and some extra, try to get some free runners at the quarterback. But I think, the offensive line is going to be, a big thing for them. There's no more Matthew Bergeron. He was a left tackle last year. They have a new starting left tackle, right? So that's where I look at, all right, and Xavier Thomas is kind of on a roll, through the first 4 weeks head into this game, right? I might, with this redshirt sophomore Enrique Cruz Jr., or if they went with the redshirt senior Mark Petrie, whoever they put at that left tackle spot, it's going to be that's going to be new for them, playing that position, starting at that position, right? With Matthew Bergeron gone. So I would say I would expect, or I would even kind of get creative with it and flip Justin Maskell and Xavier Thomas. Don't get my best edge rusher on a potential mismatch or potential weak link in the offensive line. So that's kind of how I would handle that, guys. But I think, at the end of the day, this is, again, like I said, I give them a 5. This all depends on how Clemson comes out of that Florida State game. And don't get it twisted. Syracuse played us very tough last year, right? It took Cade coming in, kind of give him a little bit of a spark. He didn't play particularly well, right? But, his running ability, getting, hit out of the pocket and stuff like that, getting some flags drawn and getting that luck on our side to get out of that game with a win. But this time around, defensively, they lost their star corner, and Garrett Williams. He's with the Arizona Cardinals. So it's just, this is a defense that has some veteran talent, but I just don't, Braylon Ingram is a guy that at the left defensive end spot that I'm keeping my eyes on for sure. But overall, I'm not too worried about them from a defensive standpoint. In terms of, do I believe that with this new offense and the weapons we have, they can give us some trouble? And it might be a little, it might get us, kind of make it a slow start maybe. But I think eventually this game, will turn out to be what it is. Now, it is going to be on the road, so the defense will have the crowd on their side and everything. But at the same time, I'm not extremely worried. Okay, I'm not extremely worried whatsoever. Like I said, I give them a 5, but I think that they'll be a solid test. But it's just all depending on how the Florida State game goes, how Clemson comes out of that matchup, guys. But we have one more game on the schedule, and that's those Wake Forest Demon Deacons, a team that gave us everything they had last year in a shootout with Sam Hartman and DJU. And crazy enough, neither one of those quarterbacks are in or with their teams. Sam Hartman at Notre Dame and DJU, of course, at Oregon State. So where do they rank on my 1 to 10 threat meter? I'll tell you next on the Locked On Clemson Pod. Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long. Because, guys, right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets back every time they win in the regular season. Let me repeat that and let me rewind myself and tell you again. If you bet on the Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and that doesn't matter if it's the Dolphins, the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Dallas Cowboys, the Minnesota Vikings. It doesn't matter. All you have to do is bet on a Super Bowl winner, and every time they win in the regular season, you'll get bonus bets for every single victory. And you can use those bonus bets on everything from spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. So go and visit FanDuel.com/locked on and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sports book. That is FanDuel.com/locked on to bet on your Super Bowl winner. The Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Last year, like I told you guys, teasing this, ending the last segment to this segment, they gave us a run for our money. It was an absolute shootout last year with Sam Hartman and DJU out there just going throw for throw, bomb for bomb, and it was an exciting game. This year, neither one of those quarterbacks are there. Of course, your starting quarterback, Cade Klubnik, but they have Mitch Griffiths, redshirt sophomore, who's starting this offense. And if I can give them a grade off the top of this segment on the threat meter, I would say a 6. I don't think they're a high threat. I don't think they're going to be a pushover. I think their scheme offensively, being that spread, deep, slow mesh RPO is so frustrating. It's so difficult to defend, right? And we saw that last year, even with the talented defense that we have. They were still able to put up a lot of points, right? And make throws downfield, make throws at all levels of the defense. But it starts with that run game and the RPO game, the slow mesh, inside zone type stuff that they run with Justice Ellison, who's their top running back. He's a talented running back, one of the more talented guys in the ACC. Very good footwork. He's patient, so we got to stop him first, right? But you can't get enamored with stopping him because as we know, that deep mesh. Well, we've seen Sam Hartman do it. They just ride the mesh point with the running back and they just creep into the line of scrimmage into the offensive line, and then he pulls the ball out and he throws a slant or he throws a crossing pattern or in cut or whatever or a deep ball if the cornerback's eyes are in the backfield. Now and the reason why I also give him only a 6, I think it would be a 6.5, maybe 7. If they had not lost their redshirt junior wide receiver, Donovan Green. A report came out, I think it was like a couple weeks ago. I think it's a leg injury for him. Again, another injury for this young man. He's so talented, so explosive, so athletic, big body. He looks like an NFL wide receiver right now. And he would have paired perfectly with the other NFL wide receiver that they have in Jamal Banks. And things of that nature. But losing him is big, especially when you have a new quarterback who needs his full slate of weapons. Losing a guy like Donovan Green, and they said 3 months, that's pretty much the whole season, right? Unless Wake Forest made it to the college football playoffs, what I don't foresee happening. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole season. So this young man's probably going to just have to come back for his redshirt senior year unless he decides to go to the NFL and try to get healthier for, the combine and all that. So, losing him is a huge blow to this offense. And defensively, I think they're okay. Their best player to me is their junior cornerback, Kalen Carson. He's got a lot of NFL draft buzz. Scouts are already kind of getting their eyes on him. Like I said, he's a true junior, I believe. So he still has a whole nother year left to come back to college or go to the NFL. But I think that's like I said, I give him a 6 just because of the scheme, and that's that deep mesh RPO, the spread attack and everything. I do think that their defense plays fast. They run that kind of 4-2-5, 4 D linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 DBs. So I think the run game will be big in this game for Clemson. But a lot of times it's all that 4-2-5 is essentially a 6-man front, on the D line and in the front 7. Those linebackers have to trigger downhill, fill their gaps, fill their running lanes and their responsibilities, and they'll be okay, instead of in terms of trying to stop and slow down the run game. But I think Will Shipley, Phil Maffa, get those guys, beat those guys up, early in that game, allowing Cade the RPO game, the play action, the deep passing game, and get that going and really start cooking. So I'm definitely, like I said, I give them a 6 mainly because of the offensive scheme. And like I said, they do have some talent on the offensive side of the ball with their run game and now their top wide receiver in Jamal Banks. I expect to see a nice battle between him and Nate Wiggins. But at the end of the day, like I said, 6 on the threat meter. That's not too bad. It's not too bad. That's not something that you lose sleep over, right? I think this is a game that, early on it might be a little contested, but through the second quarter into the third quarter, I think Clemson starts to pull away in this game. But, I'll preview it, of course, the game week and all that good stuff after we see both teams and, any injuries that may happen and so forth and so on, guys. But listen, that is our show, man. Like I said, I'm going through the schedule. I'm doing matchup grades right now, guys, and I'm having fun with it. Wake Forest getting the 6 on the scale. That scheme, some of their offensive weapons can pose a threat, but they're not anything to lose sleep over. Syracuse, what did I give them, like a 5? I think that they're well coached. They're going to be tough. The venue's going to be tough. That place is going to be rocking in Syracuse, New York, but I still don't think that they're talented enough to give us the biggest run for our money this year with a new improved offense for your Clemson Tigers. And of course, the 10 on the meter, the only 10 I think that probably we'll see. I got to go through the rest of the schedule, but the first 10 goes to Florida State. I think they are a big time threat. We got to prepare accordingly, because if not, these guys can walk out of Death Valley with the W. But guys, go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Hit the bell notification once you subscribe. Talk to me in the comments, because I do talk back, but hit the bell notification so that you are notified anytime I drop content on this channel. Guys, thank y'all for making Locked On Clemson your first listen today and every day, Monday through Friday, man. Come back tomorrow. We're going through the next 3 games on the schedule, which are Miami, North Carolina State, and that big matchup versus Notre Dame. Sam Hartman again. We got to see this guy again, all right? Okay, let's see how it works out without being in that kind of weird QB-friendly kind of offense that he's ran in Wake Forest. But we're going to talk about those 3 games tomorrow, and they're going to be rated on the threat meter. But as always, on Twitter, you can find and follow me there, DP_NFL. Talk to me, because I do talk back. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Go Tigers.